I received an intriguing Christmas present. I removed the wrapping paper to reveal a heavy bag of bits. The bits turned out to be the electrics and a bridge block from a left-handed Stratocaster copy. The owner was replacing the hardware and presented me with the bits he was replacing as a build challenge. I felt I could not justify bringing yet another guitar into the house unless it was considerably different from the ones I'd already had. I decided to build a guitar in new standard tuning, as developed by a certain Mr. Fripp in the 1980s.
It began with a wine box and a pile of Stratocaster parts, and a bit of planning. I bought a ready-made neck. The frets needed dressing, marked out where the neck would join the body at the 16th fret, scored the plywood to help reduce the risk of splitting the surface layer, drilled corners, then cut through to create a slot, sanded smooth and checked for a tight fit. Worked out where the bridge would go, centered the bridge between the 3rd and 4th string slots to allow for the left-handed tremolo arm overhang on the plate, secured the block with wooden battens to hold it firmly in place and add strength to the body, glued wooden supports either side of the neck slot, then added a cross piece, planned out where to locate pickups and controls, marked out cuts using templates, cut out then sanded pickup spaces, control knob holes and the pickup selector slot. The bridge hardware was in need of a clean, dismantled, soaked, then polished up. Applied several coats of lemon oil to the fretboard to protect the wood and bring out the grain. Coloured in the truss rod access slot, lemon oiled, teak oiled, then shoe polish waxed the headstock, followed by a final teak oil. I find this gives an extremely smooth finish. Fitted the machine heads. Coated the body with layers of Danish oil, followed by teak oil. Applied with a folded paper towel, which kind of acts like an abrasive as well as an applicator. Sanded between coats. Finally, buffing up with an old t-shirt. Fixed the electrical hardware in place. Many of the wires were too short, so had to be disconnected. As the wiring was old and rather thin, many wires just snapped off. The guitar looked a bit pale and bland and in need of zinging up. I decided to incorporate a bit of leather. There were 3 main reasons for this. Reason 1, I'd once come across a Chet Atkins Gretsch stereo guitar from the 1950s, which had a leather trim. So, as a homage to Chet, I thought I would add some leather to mine. But I had to use leatherette, sofa repair tape. Reason 2, I thought a trim would break up the simple lines of the guitar design. Reason 3, I needed to cover up bits of damage to the plywood surface. Then came the wiring. Not my foremost skill. best to look away now. Levelled up the neck slot and screwed the neck into position. Added a couple of strings to apply some tension while the neck settled in before fitting the strings.
Guitars are commonly tuned in standard tuning, a tuning which has evolved over centuries to give you all the notes you need in a reachable section of the guitar. New standard tuning, developed by Fripp in the 1980s, goes like this: C, G, D, A, E and G. The strings are tuned 5 notes apart. So starting on C, it goes C, 2, 3, 4, G. Starting on G, G, 2, 3, 4, D. D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, G. That last interval is actually 3 half steps, a minor third from E to G. Following the pattern of going in fifths, it should be a B, but that would be completely impractical. The tuning gives a wider range of pitches than are available in common standard tuning, and that requires bespoke string gauges. This is just an example. This tuning has a lot in common with orchestral instruments. The bottom 4 strings are tuned like a viola. The middle 4 strings tune like a violin. So, if you can play a violin or a mandolin with a bit of a stretch, you can play the same tunes. You will also know where to find arpeggios and scales. If you can play a mandolin, you can use those chord shapes. G, which moves across to become a C. D with an A bass moves across to become a G with a B bass. Look up some mandolin chord shapes for more variations, and they're all movable up and down the neck. Useful 2-note shapes on adjacent strings, like this. Or this. And of course, the same fret on adjacent strings will give you a root and a fifth, which of course is automatically a power chord, and you can find them all over the place. You can choose to play normal chords, major and minor, in this tuning. But the joy of altar tunings is the opportunity to explore new possibilities. You could work out the precise names for these voicings, but sometimes it's just nice to let yourself go and play what you feel.
Had to use a range of suppliers to put together the high bridge section of string gauges required. In retrospect, I think I should have gone for a wound third. Needed to do a bit of truss rod adjustment as the neck was a little bit bowed. Adjusted string heights, checked intonation and adjusted the string lengths.
Finished, and I'm amazed it actually works. I'm also really glad I used this tuning because it's so different.